Silence your enemy with this simple weapon. The night was heavy with silence. In the small room, lit only by the faint glow of a lamp, Daniel sat at his desk, head resting on his hands. He had been called a chosen one many times in his church, and deep down he wanted to believe it. Yet in his daily life, the weight of failure, loss, and despair pressed down on him like a mountain. The words in his mind never seemed to stop. You're not good enough. You will fail again. Nothing will ever change for you. They came like whispers, sometimes like shouts, echoing in the silence of his heart. It was as if an unseen enemy had found a way to chain him with words, his own words. For months, Daniel had lived this way, speaking defeat over himself. Each morning he would look in the mirror and mutter, "I can't do this." At work he would sigh, "Nothing goes right for me." At night, lying awake, he would whisper into the dark, "Maybe God has forgotten me." Every phrase felt harmless, just emotions spilling out, but the fruit of those words appeared everywhere. Relationships broken, opportunities missed, peace stolen. The voice of truth. One Sunday morning, Daniel dragged himself to church. The sermon that day was about Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The pastor's voice thundered through the hall. Your words are not meaningless. They are seeds. Every time you say, "I can't," you are planting failure. Every time you say, "I'm not enough," you are planting despair. But when you speak God's truth, you are planting life. Those words pierced Daniel's heart like an arrow. He realized that his enemy was not only around him, but inside him, within the careless words he spoke daily. That afternoon, sitting again in his small room, Daniel opened his Bible. He read Mark 11:23, "Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Go, throw yourself into the sea,' and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them." Daniel whispered, almost afraid to believe, "Could it be that my words hold such power?" The first battle, determined to change, Daniel began to watch his words. One morning, when the old whisper came, "You can't do this job," he answered out loud, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." When he looked at his reflection and the thought rose, "You're worthless," he declared, "I am fearfully and wonderfully made." It felt awkward, almost foolish at first. His mind resisted. The enemy laughed in his ear. "You're just pretending. Nothing will change." But Daniel pressed on. Each day became a battle. Negative thoughts attacked like arrows, and his only defense was the shield of God's word spoken aloud. Slowly, like sunlight breaking through a storm, he began to notice small changes. A little peace, a little strength, a little hope. The mountain of silence. But the true test came not in speaking, but in silence. One evening at work, a colleague unfairly blamed Daniel for a mistake. Anger burned in his chest, words of defense ready to burst out. Sharp, angry, destructive. Yet in that moment, Daniel remembered Ecclesiastes 3:7. There is a time to be silent and a time to speak. He clenched his fists under the table, praying silently, "Lord, help me." For the first time, he chose silence. The meeting ended awkwardly, but Daniel left with an odd sense of victory. He had not unleashed destructive words. He had restrained them. Later that week, the truth surfaced. Daniel was innocent, and his colleague apologized. In silence, Daniel had allowed God to fight for him. That night, he wept with gratitude, realizing that sometimes silence itself is a weapon that silences the enemy. The enemy strikes back. As weeks turned into months, Daniel's life began to change. His words shifted from curses to blessings. His silence guarded him from regret, and his faith grew stronger. But the enemy did not give up easily. One night, everything seemed to collapse again. His mother fell ill, his finances crumbled, and an old friend betrayed him. The old whispers returned with fury. "See, nothing has changed. Your words mean nothing. You are still a failure." Daniel sat in the dark, trembling, close to surrender. For hours he said nothing, the silence filled with despair. Finally, he fell to his knees, lifted his hands, and declared aloud, "All things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose." His voice was weak, shaking, but it carried faith. He repeated it again and again until tears rolled down his face. The whispers faded. The room, once heavy with darkness, felt lighter. The testimony. Over time, Daniel's mother recovered. Unexpected help came for his finances. Broken relationships began to heal. He knew life would always have battles, but he had learned the greatest truth. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, and silence can be stronger than shouting. Daniel began to share his testimony. He told others, "Speak life, even when you feel death. Guard your tongue, for every word is a seed." Silence your enemy not by shouting louder, but by choosing words of faith or the strength of silence. People around him began to notice. His words carried weight, not empty chatter, but fire and light. His silence spoke louder than anger. He had become a man transformed, a true chosen one, living proof of God's power. Closing Daniel's journey was not about perfection, but about learning the discipline of speech and silence. He discovered that the greatest battles were not fought with swords or fists, but with the tongue and with the choice to be silent. The enemy still lurked, whispering lies, but Daniel had learned how to respond. Sometimes with faith-filled words, "By his stripes I am healed." Sometimes with silence, trusting God to act. Either way, the enemy had no power left. And so, Daniel walked forward into his destiny, not because he was strong, but because he had learned to wield the simple weapon God had given him, the power of words and the wisdom of silence.